All right, welcome everyone. I am Nadine Kalenga, TIDC's designer service host and your host today. Darlyn and Andrew are behind the scenes. They are monitoring chats and questions. If you have any, feel free to use the chat now to tell us where you're joining us from, and feel free to use the questions function to ask questions throughout the webinar. So today's workshop is very exciting. It's brand new and never been taught before by Crystal. Today's workshop is setting up important systems and procedures for your design business, facilitated by Crystal Collinson. She is a principal designer and podcast host of The Productive Designer and Crystal Collinson Interiors. With over 18 years in the industry, she lives by the philosophy that design should solve problems, not create them. Examining the mindset and discipline it takes to run this complex business, she's developed workflow systems that work. Good morning, Crystal, and welcome today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today and allowing me to present this new content. I'm very excited, and I hope that everyone has get some takeaways today. I think there's some information in here that is definitely going to be useful and implementable, if that's a word. You can walk away, and we're going to do some implementing too during this presentation. So thank you so much, and I guess we will get going. Or do we want to wait a few minutes or a few seconds?
We could wait maybe like a couple seconds, and then
okay. We will. Okay. So do we have, I don't get to see who's here, unfortunately. So hopefully we've got some good turnout today, and there's going to be some great information that we can all start implementing following this presentation. Okay. So I think I'm going to begin. Is that okay? Yeah. All righty. So do you ever think to yourself that you need to delegate tasks and you want to do it, but it's just going to take you too long, and so you say, forget it, I'll just do it myself? Do you ever find that there's times where you're like, I got to bring on some help, I'm drowning, and I could use an employee or a freelancer, but you think about the time and the commitment it's going to take to onboard them, and you just say, forget it? Or what about streamlining? You know that we do a lot of repeated tasks in this business, and you know that you should stop reinventing the wheel. If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then you need standard operating procedures. So that's what SOP stands for. And in today's webinar, we are going to talk about what is an SOP, why we need one, why we need them in our business, how to define and determine them, because I think that can be sometimes a little overwhelming, how to document it, and I'm going to show some examples of an SOP in interior design business. So, excuse me, what is a standard operating procedure? So basically, it's a document of how a process works. And ideally, it's in the form of a step-by-step or bullet pointed, so that it can be easy to follow, and basically with a little bit of training, somebody can pretty much pick it up and run with it. It's often developed to aid in training. So if you're bringing on new team members, or if you have freelancers, because I know a lot of us in project-based businesses, there's a sort of a peaks and valleys of our business, and there are times where you could use some help. But again, the thought of bringing somebody on and sort of teaching and training them seems overwhelming. So this is why standard operating procedures are really crucial. And it's basically evidence-based. Oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. There we go. So why do we need them? Well, we need them because it's going to provide consistency and continuity in a process. So you're doing the same thing every time. It reduces errors because you're not missing steps. It allows you to outsource more efficiently, as I mentioned. It allows for business growth as well. And SOPs are not just for Fortune 500 companies. They're a necessity for small business. They really are. And it's in order for you to scale and delegate more easily, you definitely need a SOP. And also to live a balanced life. With being a small business owner myself, knowing how many hats we have to wear in a given day, we can become slaves to our business. So it's really about learning to have a more balanced life by implementing these things. Okay, so when you are creating an SOP, and the what we need to do is determine the why. So we really need to get the buy-in from the reader. So they need to understand, why am I doing this? Why am I reading this SOP? So there needs to be a full understanding of the project and why, sorry, not the project. It needs to be a full understanding of why we're creating this SOP. So for example, a client intake form, why does it matter? Well, it matters because we need to get a full understanding of the project and the budget requirements. We want to qualify a potential client. We also want to provide information to help us create accurate proposals and contract outlines. So especially if you're doing flat fee systems, flat fee based projects, you really want to be able to make sure that you're outlining each time you're creating a proposal, that you're documenting how many revisions, how long it's going to be, like how long the project time frame is going to be. I have a certain situation right now where I started a project over a year ago and we still haven't even started construction. So, you know, and that was something I missed putting in my contract. So if I had a better SOP, I would have said, okay, I got to state that in my contract. So what are some of the repeated tasks that every design project has? No matter how big or small, residential, commercial, there are going to be tasks that every single project has. So we are going to do some brainstorming. So we can talk about the initial scope intake, as I just mentioned. We have contract preparation. That's always going to be the same. The contract details are going to be different, but you're always going to have the same type of format for your contract preparation. Your contract review. So maybe this is something that you do in person with your client. Maybe it's something that you have them sign off on each line item if we're doing it virtually, especially nowadays with the way that we're operating in business with COVID. Client onboarding. How do you onboard a client? There's a process that you go through every time. A project initiation. So how do you start a project? What are the steps that you do with every project? So for instance, you may have a site measure. You're going to have an SOP for that. You're going to have trade day. Who's coming to the trade? Like, what are the trades that are going to be needed in that? If you had an SOP for that, you could basically go through the list and say, okay, yeah, this job we need a plumber. We're going to need an electrician. We're going to need, you know, a framer. But whatever the items are, if you have that listed in an SOP, then it's boom, boom, boom. You're going to be able to go through that really easily. Your drawing package. Your drawing packages are definitely going to have is a form of an SOP. What is included in your packages? All the details of each drawing, right down to the point of if you're working in, say, AutoCAD or something, where what is your layering system, what is your scale, your line weight, all that stuff is going to be included in your drawing package. Your request for quote. So that's definitely something that is SOP worthy for sure, because there's a process to that. Your sourcing or your to-do list. So you've got a project, you're ready to go. Now we need to figure out, what do we need to source for this project? Your design presentation package. What do you include in that package? Who's at the presentation? What needs to be done in order to prepare for this presentation? So these are all basically larger tasks that definitely would require an SOP. Invoicing. Again, that's a whole SOP. How does the invoicing, both on you receiving an invoice that you need to pay, as well as invoicing your clients. There's procedures for that. Purchase orders, that's a huge one. The steps that you would do for purchase order and approval. So what do we have to do? When you're defining your own SOPs, you want to break it down. So you want to take this big, large task that you have of the, for instance, the purchase order, and then you want to break down literally every step that you have to do. Now, this sounds sort of monotonous, and a lot of these things we have in our head, and we don't even realize that we do them until you sit down and go, oh yeah, then I have to do that. Oh yeah, then I have to call that person, and then that needs to be confirmed. So what you have to do is literally sit down and write down every step that is needed. So we have to list it, and we start small. So for somebody who's trying to, if you're trying to implement SOPs right now, just keep a running task or a running list of all the tasks that are required for one of your jobs. So you can open up a notes file or a notes app, or even a Word doc, anything like that, where you can just start keeping, and this way you can start keeping a tally or a running list of what it is that you are already doing. Because until you sort of stop and think about it, you don't even realize that you're doing these tasks. So for instance, if we're going to do a custom sofa, here's an example. So
Hi, Crystal. Sorry to interrupt. Me behind the scenes. We've had a request from Lipa to go back. I believe it's 2 slides.
Mm-hmm. This one?
To the list of SOPs, the brainstorm.
Okay, there it is.
Was there some question? I can have you talk live, Luipa, if you like.
These were just some examples that I thought that, oh, Luipa's there, I can see.
I just needed to, I was writing down notes, so I just needed to quickly see it, but that's okay, I'm good now.
Oh, okay.
All right. These are just some ideas, but you know, just to sort of get your wheels spinning on, oh yeah, I could do an SOP for that. So.
Yeah, thank you.
And Crystal, will you be
No problem.
sharing this with attendees after?
Sure, yep, I can do that. Okay, so yeah, so for a custom sofa, so here would be some of the steps, right? So you've picked your sofa, your client's approved, you picked your fabric. Well, now you need to make the request for quote. That's one SOP. Then you get your, part of the process would be the receiving the quote from the vendor. Then you need to confirm your lead times. You need to approve the quote or get your client to approve the quote. Then you need to now create your purchase order. Now you need to confirm your purchase order, verify the sales order from the vendor, pay the deposit, pay the balance, arrange for the delivery, installation, who's doing it. So all of these items, many of us, as I said, do this without even knowing that we just do it, right? That's how the process is. But if you were to outline and document this, if you were to bring in an admin person, they can just go, okay, I've done this part, now I can move on to the next one. So you can see by explaining it step by step, I mean, often some of these points here are going to have their own additional steps inside, but I just wanted to give you sort of a high level to see that, oh my gosh, you're right, there's a lot of steps that are taken in, just ordering one sofa. So the amount of SOPs as interior design professionals and decorators that we could have, I mean, it's amazing for all the things that we do that we just sort of take for granted that we do every day. So we're going to create our own. So an example would be this client intake, inquiry intake process, right? So you've got your first call, you've got a call from a client or email, whatever the first point of contact is. So you've obtained your client's email, and now what you're going to do is you're going to send them an intake form. So where's this intake form? Well, it's in the Google Drive, admin, new client, blah, blah, blah. So you've outlined where this file lives. And again, if you had an administrator, they could send it to the client via email. So you've now directed as to who's going to do this. Then once you get this intake form back, you're going to send the client a Calendly link. These are just examples. I'm not saying that everyone has to do this process. You can send them a Calendly link. So we're telling how we're going to contact the client, and we're going to set up a call or virtual call, or however you want to do it, for the principal designer to now speak with the client. So now they've got this intake form and they can review it and say, okay, so far on paper, this client looks great. They have all the requirements that they're wanting, that meet our requirements to take on this project. And now they're going to set up a call and discuss with the client, and have a little bit of a conversation and get to know the client a little bit better and get some more information, which sometimes isn't always in your initial intake form. So then after you've made this qualifying discussion, your project is going to move. I just need to move there we are. So after the qualifying discussions, the project's going to move forward. What would happen next is that the principal designer is going to prepare these 3 documents. So the fee proposal, and then you would reference what SOP that fee proposal is in. What your letter of agreement. So you're referencing where these additional documents that are required in order to complete this task. So it's, again, step by step, very, as I said, an administrator could look at this and go, okay, I need to see what's in the fee proposal, if she's gathering all this documents for the client. And then the administrator administrator can be you if you're a small business, but if you had somebody on, is going to email these documents to the client, make sure that they confirm receipt of it. And then here's your, your little possible, if required, if the principal designer needs to review in person with these documents, maybe there's some scope creep or some things that need to be changed. That's a possibility. And then the design firm will receive the letter of agreement and deposit payments from client. And then the administrator is going to file the signed letter of agreement into the client file. And so SOP 22 would be what, was in the client files, or how to set up a client file. Then this deposit is entered into the accounting system. The admin or the accountant notifies the senior designer of the payment in order to proceed to the next step. So this is just sort of again, an outline of what would be possibly included in a client intake step-by-step process. Sorry, why am I not moving here? There we go. Okay, so creating your SOP. So what's typically in an SOP? Well, you're going to have a table of contents because you're going to have many, many SOPs, and you're going to need to outline where they all live. I recommend doing something possibly in a digital version, because then this way, these are living documents that are going to change constantly. When you do your first draft of an SOP, it's going to change, right? You're going to have something down. It's a working document, a living document. As you go through a process, maybe once or twice, you're going to go, oh, that step didn't really work, or I need to add in a step, or I need to change. So if you had something that was a digital version, and in your table of contents, you could put like hyperlinks in there, and they can click right onto that file. So that's a recommendation. You're going to need the document name, the SOP number, the author, so who created it, because maybe you have to go back to them and say, like, listen, what does this mean? Maybe there's some clarification. So you always want to document who's written it, a revision number, because as I say, there's going to be revisions as you start going through the process. It's like any kind of new system that you're developing. There's a bit of a trial and error and some massaging, and you're going to put a page number, meaning if this SOP is long and it's 5 pages, you want to document, 1 of 5, 2 of 5, etc., so that if that person were to read it, they know that there's more information in there. What is the purpose? So you briefly describe the goal in preparing this document. So we were talking about the client intake, where you want to, the purpose of it is to gather all the pertinent information from your client, to qualify them. So you're explaining briefly why you've written this SOP. Responsibilities, so who's the staff that needs to execute this? Is there any senior level approval that needs to be included in this before maybe it's sent out? And then the procedure. This will outline the step-by-step tasks. So as mundane and as basic as some of these things seem, you have to literally outline each of the tasks. So you're going to have references or related documents. So in my previous example where I had the different SOP numbers for the letter of agreement or the contract, you want to put those in there so that they can reference those easily. And then graphics or images. So I'm going to show you some screenshots further into this presentation on ways of maybe explaining a procedure that sometimes images are going to be helpful. It doesn't necessarily all have to be written in text format. And then an approval signature. So that may be a physical signature. I do recommend keeping everything digital just because of you want it easily accessible for everybody, as well as things change. So maybe it's just an approved by, and so we know who did actually approve it. So here's an example, a really, really simple example that I created just to give you an idea of how you could set it up. Many, many different options online. You can go look. You have to have something that's going to work for you. There's really no right or wrong. So this would be, the SOP number, what the name of it is, date it created, the version, if it was revised, who it was revised by, who's the original author, there's the responsibilities of who needs to do this, who it's approved by, checked by, and then the references section. So if you have any supporting documents, as I mentioned, that you might want to list in there. And then the purpose. So the first point of contact from the potential client to collect as much information about the project in order to qualify a suitable fit for the design studio. Typically, this is completed over the phone in order to begin and establish a rapport with the client. So once you've got all this information, then you can move on to the next SOP. So this just kind of gives you, and so this way somebody could go in there and go, okay, I need to get the client's name, their number, email, project address. Kind of like a very small intake form. You learn a little bit about the client. Okay, they have 2 kids. Do they have an idea of budget or timeline? So some of that information initially, just as you're speaking to somebody either over the phone or via email, you would be asking this type of information. So now it's your turn. So I want everyone to open up either a Word document, a Google document, if you just want to write down with pen and paper, whatever works for you and is easiest. So I want you to take one of the tasks that I had mentioned earlier. You can either use one of those, or if you have something that you really think that you need to outline. And I want you to brainstorm a list. I'll give you a couple minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and then you list all the steps that you think you're going to need in order to complete this task from start to finish. So you don't get to just snooze off in this webinar. You got to do some work right now. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes and I'll come back. Let's see, it is 11:20. So I'll give you to like 11:22, 23. I don't know, Nadine, if you want to have some music playing.
Yeah, no one's asked any questions yet.
Okay.
Feel free, anyone, if you have any questions, let us know and Crystal will be able to answer them.
Jack, I don't know.
Oh, Crystal, can you go back to the slide with the brainstorming ideas?
Sure.
Everyone can see those ideas again.
Yeah. That was a sofa. Hold on. I don't know of a quick way to do this other than this. There we are.
Yeah, perfect. Clarissa wants us to go back 3 slides. Is this, Clarissa, is this a slide that you wanted, or feel free to chime in and let us know as well. She said go back 3 slides. So I don't know if this is the slide she's referring to.
To the one that's, hi Nadine and Crystal, to the one that's, that details out the beginning of the SOP. So I think it's 3 slides back from what you've got right now.
Okay.
Oh,
Not this one, sorry, not from this one, from
from
where
the
you,
slide that we came from, yeah.
Not this one, right?
don't
Oh,
think,
what was in it? Sorry. I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about now. Typical format.
the typical format. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you.
No
Okay.
problem.
And there was more there too. Oops.
And Jacqueline, you can also speak now. It looks like you had your hand up.
Sure did. This is awesome. Thank you so much for this. Excellent.
Oh, you're very welcome. Good.
I'm really thrilled to meet you because I've asked this of other coaches and
Yeah.
I've always kind of flown by the seat of my pants for 20 years. And
Yep.
now that I'm simplifying and downsizing, I want to make my life as simple as possible. So I really, I don't know what I don't know. And I've always just worked for myself, never in a larger firm.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you listing all the typical, seemingly obvious SOPs that are needed from start
Right.
to finish. And I would love to hear, in detail, like what ones you use. And I'm assuming that these are the ones that you use in your firm and how you use them and how you set them up. And
Well,
just
it's funny. I'm still, building mine as well. Because to your point, when you're, either a solopreneur or you bring in, freelancers or staff on an as-needed basis, a lot of times I'm, to your point, sort of flying by the seat of my pants as well. And now I've really started saying, okay, I've really got to get this stuff documented. So I'm going to show you further in this presentation some ideas of where and how to keep them in there. So at the end of it, if you still have questions, or you may have more actually after you see this, obviously we can chat. So
beautiful.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
great. Okay, so hopefully everyone's had some time to start to create their own.
Oh, there's just one more question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry.
Deborah asked, it would be interesting to know of the people watching how many are solo entrepreneurs. So no staff, no senior designers, just me. So she wanted to know, I guess what she's asking is, of everyone watching, how many are solo and don't have a larger firm or working with a bigger team. Is that what you're asking, Deborah, sorry? Solo now. Okay, so I guess she's asking for everyone in the chat. And yes, okay, great. Hopefully that answers the question, but everybody's just answering in the chat as well. So everybody's solo.
Yeah, but see, that's why I wanted to make the point about saying it's not this seems like something that a big company with staff and all that would do. But the whole point of being able to do this is that you can bring in help, even if it's like temporary, or just getting some admin help, because that's something that's an easy thing to outsource, like with a virtual assistant, or somebody like that, where now you've got it all. I always say it's like almost like this binder that you can go, boom, here you go, this is how we do things here. And it's, for many of us, keep it all upstairs, right? We just go, yeah, this is what I do, and that's who I call, and then all of a sudden somebody you need help, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta, who do I, oh yeah, I know who I call for that, and you gotta send them, and it becomes this sort of piecemeal, oh, here's so-and-so's email, and call them, and it's like, if you just start slowly documenting it, it seems overwhelming, and I get it, right? Everyone's like, there's so many things to do in a business, but if you can sort of see the benefit down the road of, putting the work in now, how it's going to pay off, it doesn't matter how big of a company you are. So I know most of us are solo, or, as I said, small businesses. So it's even more important for us. Okay, so we've done this. So maybe at the end, unless anybody has any questions right now about, sort of sitting down and doing a little bit of your own brainstorming on procedures. Is there any questions, Nadine? Does anyone got anything right now, or?
Well, no questions at the moment.
Okay.
Just saying that they are solo, which is basically
predominantly most people. Yeah. Okay. So once you've created, what you want to do is you want to start now fine-tuning, right? You've made your sort of brainstorming list, you made your step-by-step, and then you want to continue to create the procedure, and you need to answer the following questions. So the 5 W's, as we refer to it. So what is the documented process? Okay, it's an accounting procedure, it's a presentation procedure, it's drawings. When does this need to be performed? Are there previous steps that need to happen before or after? Are there task dependencies where you can't do this task without something else happening before it? Detail why the task is performed. So I think we talked about that earlier. The reader needs to understand the purpose of it. Where? So where does this file live? So if it's like one of the examples here is the AutoCAD standard drawing package. Where does this live? Where, again, setting up the file, because I'm guilty of this myself, where I'm like, did I store that on Google Drive? Did I put it in Dropbox? Did I put it in my hard drive? And I have freelancers that work with me. And so we need to be able to not waste time and just be like, this is where it lives, easy, they can find it easily. And then who the task needs to be performed by. So again, we were talking about how it's, a lot of us are solopreneurs. So right now we're gonna list who, if we were to grow, who this could be performed by. Most of these probably will be performed by ourselves, but at least it's, again, you're preparing for that growth if you wanna grow. You're getting yourself organized, as I think it was Clarissa said about, just simplifying yourself. You're systemizing and simplifying. You want to make it scannable, and what I mean by that is quickly bullet points and point forms, so that you can literally scan through it and say, okay, that's the information I need. You want to use clear and concise wording. So an example here is a CFA cutting must be received and reviewed before placing order for custom upholstery. So the must implies it's required, like there's no question about it. You don't move forward without having the CFA. Whereas something like a follow-up meeting may be required to review fee proposal with clients, as I was saying in the intake. So may implies possibility, but not necessary. So here I'm going to give you another example. So say we were doing as-built drawings. So you've been brought on to do a renovation and you need to get the site measured. So you're going to call so the step would be, in your head, well, we're going to call our site measuring company. We're going to get him to go out there and da-da-da. Well, who's going to do that? Well, the administrator could arrange for it. And then who are they going to contact? Well, here it's Bill Smith at ABC Measuring Company, and here's the phone number. And how are they going to make these arrangements? Are they going to play telephone tag? No, we're going to send Bill Smith a calendar link that says, here are the 4 dates that my client maybe has available or you have available. And then once those are confirmed, the administrator is going to notify the client of the date, and they're going to do this by email, the measure date and the time. They can then, what also will help is to provide screenshots. So this is what I think I'm going to show you some examples of maybe something that is easier to, if you were trying to explain maybe how to do a Calendly setup. So maybe you could You could do a screen recording. I'm a big fan of Loom. I don't know if you guys have heard of Loom. It's a free software that records your screen and your voice. You can have a little picture of yourself in the bottom corner if you want, or you can just do your screen and voice. And what it allows you to do is to walk through something, a process. So you could literally show how you would do set up a Calendly link, because that might be something that's really hard to describe in text. Whereas using this Loom, you could record it and then you have it as literally a link that is part of your SOP. And sometimes these are, to my point, is it might be software that somebody hasn't used before, such as like Trello or Asana or Basecamp or something like that, where you want to be able to show them by, as picture speaks 1,000 words, but I mean, a video is even better because you could literally walk them through and go, okay, click over here and click over here. It's like a bit of a tutorial. So here's a quick screenshot of Loom. And what it does is you have a link. So I think you can see my mouse. You can see my mouse. So you have this link here that once you've recorded it, you can copy this link and paste it into like a Word document or paste it into a Google Doc. And then that link is in your SOP, and they just click on that link and it goes to Loom, and they can watch the video on how to do a Calendly link or something. So that's a really, really awesome software. I love it. It's super easy. And as I said, it's a free service. I think that you can do paid versions, and I don't really know what the benefit is. Maybe they store more of your files, or if you were doing webinars or something, maybe you would do that, but the free service works just fine. Another idea is just using like a screenshot. So maybe you want to show somebody where this file is located, or I don't know, there's many reasons why you might have a screenshot in your SOP. So that type of thing where you would point it out where step by step on how to do something. This is just a quick screenshot of a Trello board. So where to store it? So as I mentioned earlier, I'm a fan of you. Yep.
The previous slide, there was a question, does it work in PowerPoint?
Absolutely, you can do it, anything you can do. I think if they're talking about the Loom video maybe that they want to know, I believe it is, because anything that you can hyperlink would work, right? So you could put it into that. As far as I know, I haven't tried it, but I can't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, if it's just a link, absolutely. Is that your question, Deborah? We'll let her chime in. Yes, okay. You got it.
Okay. So where to store it? So I love cloud-based. I'm a big fan of Google just because it's free. It's everybody has access to it. Most people know how to use Google. I think in there is the best place because, as I mentioned before, this is a living document. You're going to be updating it. You're going to be changing it. You're going to be modifying it. And that way, the most recent version is always going to be in there. As I said, keep it digital, easy to revise. And even if you're just continually like, oh yeah, I got to add that step, it's a quick, easy way to do it. I don't think anybody's really going to get into printing this stuff out because it's going to be changing on a relatively regular basis. So, because if you make these and store them somewhere and never look at them again, then they're never going to be current and accurate. And so then it's just going to be kind of a waste of time. So some of the ideas where you could store them. So as somebody mentioned about, you could do it in a PowerPoint. You could do it Evernote. I don't keep mine in Evernote. I keep a lot of other stuff in Evernote, but that's somewhere where you could use Trello, which is one of the boards. You could keep them all in there because you can attach files, you can attach images, you can attach links. So you could definitely do that in there and have it as a nice, simple, clean board view of all your SOPs. Or Asana, same type of thing. Google Drive. You could do it in Docs. You could do it in a Sheets file because again, all those you could hyperlink a lot of your the documents. And as I said, its preference is to have it in a cloud-based software. So there is software that is specifically created for SOPs. I'm just listing them here. They're paid software. A lot of them are way more than we would ever need. But I just thought I'd give you some information if anybody wanted to check them out. Some of them can be quite expensive because they are geared towards much larger companies. And this is where some of my information has come from, some of my credits. And then those are the websites for the processes that if anybody wants to look into any of the suite process and workflowy, any of those. And that is it. So I'll go back to here and see if there's any questions. Very high level, you know, and it's really however you want to set it up. I think that, you know, whatever works for you and you're going to use is, and I say that with most software, that I've tried a lot of different project management. I've tried a lot of design related software. I think it's a lot of this stuff is trial and error, and there's no right answer.
Great.
So Nadine, do we have any questions?
We do not have any questions at the moment.
Okay, I think Clarissa was asking before about where to keep them. So hopefully that Trello board view, which I'm just going to go back quickly to that. Oh, there we are. So each of those Trello boards, you can click into them, and that could have everything that you need for, you know, so you could literally set it up with, and this is a free version of Trello, by the way, and I'm not affiliated with Trello because I've tried everything. But because we're visual people, I don't know, there's something about the way that the Trello sets up that I just really like it. So you could go in there and then you could have all your marketing procedures if you wanted. You could have, you know, your drawing procedure, like you could literally set up columns, and then each one of those has your procedures, and it's literally in like one nice view. And as I mentioned, sorry, not that way. The Loom videos are amazing. Once I discovered this, I was like, oh, this is so great. Because it's so easy to do it, right? You can record a 60-second video and you've explained something that's probably going to take you, you know, 10, 15 minutes to type out.
All right, so we have a question from Ashley. She said, is there a list of SOP that can outline what to include, or is it based on the scope of work or the client?
I think it's going to be based on what you do as a designer. So if somebody is going to do like full construction drawings, you know, like you have to sort of, I think, break down what it is that you do as a designer for your clients. If you're only doing kitchens, maybe you have a finishing kind of SOP, how you make sure that you go through and you've selected all of your finishes and what you need for kitchen and appliances. And so, you know, SOPs are almost like a checklist as well. So you can kind of look at it as a checklist, but being able to sort of formalize your steps and your processes, I think that's something that you're going to have to figure out for yourself as to what you do. You can kind of just look at the stages of a project too and think about what you do in each stage. And that's a good way to break down things too, is when you start a project, you're like, how do I start it? How do I bring my client on? What do I, like, you have these in your head already. It's just a matter of sort of extrapolating them from your head and saying, yeah, this is what I do. Oh yeah, I do that too. And yeah, I do that. You know, even things like when a client reaches out to you and they're like, well, we want our kitchen done. Well, you could tell them like, okay, well, you need to gather some, you know, some inspiration images. You need to, you know, how do you direct them on that? So you may have, you know, we have an SOP where it's basically like, check out Pinterest, check out this, check out that, go to Google, like just to give them ideas, because gone are the days really that people cut out from magazines anymore. Now you can just do it all online. And whether they, you know, create a Pinterest board that they share with you or something, but it's just really outlining all those things that that you do with every project that, you know, just stopping and going, oh yeah, I do that. So it's just making you slow down and document each step. So there's no real list for that.
Thank you, Ashley. The next question we have from Jacqueline. She asked, what programs do you use and how do you use them? Why do you prefer Trello to Asana, etc.?
I'm kind of straddling both right now, to be honest. I've been using, there's certain features I liked with Asana that Trello didn't have, but I'm learning a little bit more with Trello right now. So I'm kind of this straddling of, for my podcast, I'm still using Asana, but for my business, I'm using Trello. I like Trello because I'm a visual person, right? And I need to see, I like to see, you can do this in Asana as well. But there's something with Trello that I like to be able to see kind of this quick high level overview of everything, as well as being able to link to other boards. And I haven't figured that out in Asana, so I'm not sure if it's available. So I don't want to speak to that. I'm not an expert in any of these. It's just been me trial and error really. and the fact that I'm using both of the free versions. So there's going to be features with the paid versions that you don't get in the free. But for what I need it for, I think it's working fine. And you can bring on, you can have your team members, if you have any freelancers out there that work with you, you can bring them on as well. And you don't need to pay for their usage. You can bring them on as guests. So just with Trello, I think I liked the visual layout of it better.
All right, and the next question we have from Carly. She asks, what do you use or recommend for client management?
Client management. Is there any way she can give me a little more detail on what she means by client management?
Carly, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if she can, that would be great. And while we're waiting, I can sort of try to speak to, maybe she needs project management.
Carly, if you can elaborate on your question a little bit more, you can feel free to chime in, or you can write your question further in depth.
So I'm going to just speak to project management or task management while we're waiting. And again, everybody's brain kind of processes information differently. Us being visual people, I think we tend to want to sort of see it. I'm this one of those, okay, if I'm making a decision, I need to see it in a chart. So whether it's a spreadsheet, it's like this Trello board, where's my Trello board there? That kind of information that then is dated, so that if there's a certain timeline that you need to get back to somebody by, I see Jacqueline has popped up. Sorry, somebody come on.
Yeah, I heard someone's voice. So like keeping tabs on client intake forms and keeping them in your system.
So that's more of a filing system, really. So I think you need to set up, again, it's a preference really, on how you can do it. You could do it by, I keep typically mine by project. So I'll have my project, and then I'll have an admin file. And in that admin file, in that project, I would have like letters of agreement, invoices, even though I do, like I use Wave for my invoices, even though that's a digital, I just like a hard copy PDF that I keep in there. If there's any inspiration images, if they've emailed me inspiration images, because sometimes, clients will do that. Or if there's any site photos, I have a file for that. Then we have our drawings. What else do we have in there? So it's usually by client, or sorry, by project. And then if you're like doing 2 or 3, because I do a lot of work with builders, it would be the builder and then the project. And then again, that fine tuning it down. So I kind of keep things administrative, invoices, drawings, presentations. So whether they're PowerPoints or slides, Google Slides, I keep those in there too as sort of design concepts. So that's kind of how I outline the stuff. And then I just have due dates on in either Trello or Asana. As I said, I'm kind of straddling both right now, that would come up and say, okay, I haven't heard back from them and I need to follow up, that kind of thing. Or maybe the kitchen's being installed and you want to make sure that, you're giving your clients notice that, yeah, in 3 days, kitchen's coming, and, making sure that you guys are all ready, or whatever the situation is. So just, and you can do that in your calendar too, right? Like you could use it as just put your reminders in your calendar. I'm using Google Tasks right now a lot too, which I kind of like, and that works in your Google Calendar. So I've kind of gotten away from, I'm a Mac user, so I've gotten away from my Apple iCalendar, and I'm using more my Google, which I like because I just have this running task list of things that I can just even use off my phone, and it syncs with my calendar, and then it's a list of tasks, and then I can remember to follow up or schedule them in a day.
Okay, we have another question from Karen.
Okay.
She is really impressed by the layout of your Instagram account. Well done. How do you manage your Instagram? Are you using a program to help you ensure that design is consistent, etc.?
Okay, so, well, my builder designer Instagram account, I have somebody doing that for me because it wasn't happening. And then my productive designer, which we just started basically back in May, I'm doing that with, I have a student intern right now who's helping me do that. And yeah, it's just, I use Later. Later.com is a social media scheduling software. And it's, again, I'm using the free account right now. And it basically, it's kind of like a calendar view, and you can just, you literally upload your image and put it in there. It doesn't give you the full Instagram grid. Like, you don't get to see that, I don't think, in it, but it's a visual way you can schedule it. Like, I want it to come out at 10:03 on Tuesday type of thing, and you can have those scheduled. So again, big fan of batch content, like batching your stuff. So getting a bunch of those out, and then you can just schedule them. So later.com is really good for that. And it does everything. It does Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. I don't know if it does LinkedIn. I can't remember. I think it does LinkedIn as well. So it's great.
Okay, and Don Fisher also added that Planoly is a good app to use for that as well.
I think I think that one does all four too, as well. I know some of them don't do all of them, and Later was the one that did. The free account with Later, you can't schedule videos, though. You have to, if you're going to start scheduling videos, you need to have the paid account, but it's not, I think it's like $7 or $8 a month, which is not much, but I know because I have a million things that I subscribe to at $7 or $8 a month, and it starts to add up. Yeah.
Another great one is Preview. I think with that, you can see the actual Instagram layout as well.
Okay, good to know. See?
Yeah. And then Andrea Coleman asked, my internet was interrupted. Will the recording be available? Yes, it will. We will send a recording right after, probably by tomorrow, this afternoon.
Okay.
And no other questions so far.
Oh, Jacqueline has raised her hand.
I sure have.
Oh, there you are.
So you're saying that you flip back and forth between Asana and Trello?
I am right now, just because I'm starting to use it. I'm trying to do this different. As you can see here, I have this sort of dashboard that I'm trying to create using this system. So I'm still sort of, but I was Asana for the last probably year.
And was there something that Asana didn't do that you find in Trello? Like, I'm just wondering, like, if I'm just starting out and I want to take advantage of all the time that you.
I know, right? I'm the guinea pig. You know what it is? I think there's certain, it depends. Okay, is it just going to be for you, or are you using it with a team? What's your situation?
Maybe at the most 2 more people, but usually it's just me.
Okay. The nice thing with Asana that Trello doesn't have is it kind of has this way of summarizing your tasks. So it says my tasks, and then it has like your inbox. So if you're communicating with a freelancer team member, it has that, which it can be a little bit clunky in some of the, like, I kind of have to go, it's not super clean. That was one of the things I didn't love. Like, it's like kind of like an inbox within Asana. So it is good for team members, and you can assign team members just like you can in Trello. I liked the Asana has like a check off, so you can do like you do completed tasks, and then you can filter it so that you see incomplete tasks or both, or just like you can sort of filter it. So that's a plus. There's pluses and minuses with both. I would say try each one for like a week each, because they're free, and just sort of play around with what you think works for you. Like, it's so hard for me to say what is the better way. I'm trying to do this where I'm having this sort of headquarter dashboard that I'm trying to, it was a system that that somebody showed me, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this. Talk to me in 4 months and see where I'm at. I don't know. I jump around a little bit. So, but I've tried a lot of them. And some can get expensive though if you're starting to bring on team members. Like some can get where you're paying per team member. So right now, for sure, Asana, you can bring on people for free, and Trello you can up to a certain extent, I think, as a guest. So I know it's not the clear answer for you, but you do have to try it.
It's a good start, Bill. That's cool.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And you're in Toronto?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm in Montreal. Hi, neighbor.
Hi, neighbor.
Okay, thanks.
You're
We
very
also have
welcome.
Sheila. I've unmuted you. You had your hand up. Sheila?
Shayla?
Hi. Yes, hi. It's okay. That's fine. No, go ahead.
Did you have a question? No, I guess not.
Okay.
All right. See if there's any other questions. No questions.
No.
All right, so I guess we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you, Crystal. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We really hope that you found today's session very valuable. If there are any other topics you'd like to see in the future, please let us know. We love feedback. Next week, we're going to have another important talk with a group of designers and Black Architects and Interior Designers Association, BETA, to discuss equity in education in the design business. Visit our website at exploretidc.com for the link to register. You can also register for free for our TIDC membership program if you're not already a member. And in August, we will be hosting a workshop for industry collaborators to look at the issues we've uncovered over the past few talks surrounding diversity and inclusion. If you are interested in joining us to prioritize and plan how we can continue to take action, please feel free to email us or DM us on social. So once again, everyone will receive a recording of today's talk. And thank you again, Crystal. I think everybody found today very valuable. And thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too.